All right, we're gonna go around the exterior on the truck. Has plenty of scratches and chips on it. Most trucks do. The bumpers were chrome, and then they painted them black. You'll see some overspray. The other side's worse. There is some impact marks here, and then you'll see more right here. But this is where you can tell that's chrome, literally the line there. Sorry. And then here's some of that overspray I was talking about. Inside you can tell it's chrome, and that's on both front and rear bumpers. You see here chrome, and then this was white. They painted it black. You see like lots of chips and stuff present in here. Was a chrome grille that was painted black. So like they made it look more base model than it was, because it did have the chrome. You can get these base enough where it is actually black from factory instead of having them chrome. So it's interesting they did that. It does have aftermarket wheels. None of the caps are on the wheels. Steps seem to be in good shape, but you'll got, you know, dings. I don't know if you can see it too well. Dings on the bed and stuff. Another spot here on the tailgate where they took off the emblems all the way to the paint on some of those. Ding there. So just kind of all around. See like a little bit of wavy to the bed here. I mean, it's not beat up. It just has some dings and dents. Not perfect, but not that bad either. All right, so we're gonna go through our engine bay. This is the 6-cylinder, so not the Hemi. These still make a decent amount of power. I think they say they're like 300 crank or something like that. For a like run around town truck, pretty good. They're not really a slouch. I don't really have trouble getting up to speed. I don't know what it would be like towing much. There's a few things I want to address on this truck. We did have an active coolant leak start happening while this was sitting here idling. Now, I can't tell if it's coming out of this hose or the plastic intakes here, but we also have another pool on the other side happening over there. The hoses don't have a lot of pressure, so it's not building the pressure. I didn't overheat or even get past operating temperatures, so I didn't have any concerns with like the cooling system not working, but we are leaking actively. So I'll try to be quick here. Brake fluid is rather dark. Usually that's a sign of moisture buildup. That's what the brake fluid is designed to do. Over time that will reduce your performance. Obviously it raises the boiling point. And then air filter was replaced not too long ago. It's not like brand new. One thing to look at, this intake hose is not all the way secure on the throttle body, and that is this whole piece here. So I just want that to be secure. And then in here, that's your oil filter. There is a housing in here. Basically you got coolant that goes through there and stuff, and then down in there sometimes it will leak. Now this does have some moisture on the back of the oil pan, and those, based on how the engine sits in here, will run oil down the backside and along the top of the bell housing on the transmission. So it could be a topside leak coming down based on what I could see on the undercarriage portion here. Definitely something to get looked at. With this top thing, I can't see down in there as well as like some of the other cars, like the Chryslers and the Chargers that have the V6. It's like right here and you just look right down in it, but this engine's so far back is how small it is. But here's kind of that cooling that started happening. I did shut it off and let it kind of chill out for a little bit, but I'm gonna just keep this video short here and move on. All right, so this is gonna be our undercarriage. I use this mirror to kind of go along the bottom here. I always start from the front. I like to look back, make sure we have nothing hanging down or sagging. It's kind of nice here. Kind of see where that coolant was dripping down the frame and everything right there. And a little more over on this side here. Again, those are those spots just from sitting here idling. Overall, frame's pretty dry, so this might be new to them. They might not know about it. Could be something with the cold weather. Maybe the coolant's just old, but definitely something to get looked at. These have plastic end tanks these days, so we don't want to ignore that. We're gonna move to each corner here. All right, so this is the cab corner, your body mount for the cab to the chassis or frame. I'm gonna get in a little close here. So you can see on the back side there of that trans fan, that shiny bit is just the wetness, and then on the trans, focusing. Hold on a sec. There we go. So the transmission, you see the residue all over it. It could be from an oil leak that I was explaining in the engine bay, but definitely something to get addressed on this guy. Got a couple things going on here. Frame and everything are in good shape. Cab. Here's the rear cab corner. Not rusted out or chipped or anything like that. And then your multi-link is all in good shape. And then your fuel tank also looks good. No gashes or anything. We're gonna move to the other side. All right, so there's your spare. This is a coil spring with a multi-link rear end in good shape. Everything there. You have a chassis or frame mounted hitch. Frame all looks good back here. Doesn't look like we've had any impacts. Panel looks good. Stock exhaust, I mean it is a V6, so not a lot to mess with. We're gonna move to the side. This is your passenger side, multi-link, your primary muffler. That rear one's more like a resonator. Bed, cab, good shape. And then up here on your front corner, your cab, and then frame and everything here. Maybe get a little better view on some of that wet stuff there, but that's your chassis. All right, so we're gonna start here with the interior. I always start with the steering wheel controls, no phone controls. This is where you do your manual shifting on these trucks and cruise control, infotainment, and then like nothing on the backs, so no radio control. Current mileage, we're at 147,644 at the time of the drive. Gauges all work properly. The gas cap light stays on pretty much the whole time. Auto front windows, power mirrors, all work as intended. I'll show you on the back part. The windows are really dark, you'll see from the outside. Have that off. This all works as intended. And then you got the knob for your gear selection, and then for low, for high, all works like it should. Tow haul, basic amenities. Stereo comes on, works well. And then right now we're gonna pause. We're just gonna open up all the doors and everything and just look from the outside in. All right, so I don't know if I touched base when I was at that first part, but the air sounds a lot like if it is behind the glove box area. Like a lot of airflow is coming out of there and not really going through all the vents. Something I get looked at. I know these have cabin filters and stuff in them these days. Door cards are in pretty good shape. There's like some spots where there's staining in the web and just some scuffs from boots and stuff getting in and out. It does have carpet, some stains in there. Everything else looks pretty good. On the seats, you'll see some like wear. I don't see many tears. There's a couple burns, some cracking in the leather from elbow there. And then in the back, same deal. Door cards are in relatively good shape, just some scuffs. These are small doorways on these work trucks. Under here, so you got your tool set, and then your jack is not there. It should be secured in there. It might be under the passenger seat. I'll make sure it's there though. Seat is in pretty good shape. There are some stains. I'll show you more on that side once I get over there. We're gonna swap sides. All right, so door card on the passenger rear, pretty good shape. Seat here is where you can see some stains. It does have these little mats, but the carpet's in pretty good shape back here. Seats as well, so not too many rear passengers. But here's that tent I was talking about, so it stops here. The edges are really rough on it, right? Some like wrinkles and lines and stuff, like scratches. This is chewed up, mangled. This is where your jack sits. Boop, there it is. And then it should go behind and then click back in. Voila. Carpet on this side, good shape. Glove box. This doesn't have like the glove box. It's just like a handle, but don't pull on that. You'll rip this whole thing out. It does have an owner's manual in it with a leather book. That's cool. All this works. Does have some USB and cigarette lighter in there, and seat folds up. So interior wise, pretty standard work truck stuff. That's basically how you recline the seat, so you might want to look into that. But that nub is a bit chewed up, so something to keep in mind. All right, so this is our trunk or truck bed or hatch, depends on the vehicle, right? So truck bed on this has the plastic in it. It's not beat up or damaged in any way, which is really nice. You'll see like chipping and stuff underneath, some scuffs from that, but not too terrible. This is in pretty good shape. You'll see like scratches and chips and stuff all over this, and then that rail is zip tied down. Pretty good shape. This does have a damper on it, and it makes this tailgate ungodly slow. So maybe too much damper. I don't know if I'd want to wait that long. Just watch. Full drop. It's really slow. It could be just how cold it is too on that damper, I guess, but it's nice. I like having dampered tailgates, but that's too slow. Some dings and stuff on there, and then I do want to show you up on here. You'll see we got like a ding and kind of wrinkled this back, and then there's a crack in the paint and rust forming there, something to keep an eye on. It's just like a vacuum area on the back of these cabs. And that's going to be the trunk or truck bed. All right, so in this portion, we're doing our code scan on the vehicle. We do have one code on the radio frequency hub. It is stored low tire pressure. No lights on it at the time of the drive, so most likely just one of these cold nights, they probably topped it up for us. As you'll see here, everything else checks out, which is good, but I do also have the concern with the gas cap light being illuminated on this. There is some kind of reason for that. So either the cap's not sealing properly. There is something called an eSIM. So it's this little module that is a vacuum operation, right? So it sucks it shut and opens up when there's vapor to release. And a lot of times on these Mopars that could cause the fault as well. And I've also heard of there being some kind of issue with the computer and the mileage that the car's showing sometimes on that. So definitely something to get looked at. Down here, once it focuses, I always like to look at our VIN that's displayed in the computer and make sure it matches the one on the truck. It is a Canadian VIN. Right here, we're going to pause and then go to our monitors. All right, here we are in the monitors. Red X on the evap with the gas cap light being on. That makes complete sense. So it's evaporative emission system monitoring, right? So your gas vapors that's monitoring. Everything else checks out with green checks. The circles with the line through it is just a monitor that's either not supported, or on a lot of these newer cars, they just tie it into another module or sensor, so that there's not so many redundancies. Like one thing can monitor so many deals, like your cap monitoring and your oxygen and like your heat. All of that can be shared modules, so that's why some of that stuff was just like your secondary air and the heated cat, right? So like it's all, a lot of it can be tied in. Really nothing to concern ourselves. The Red X is something to get looked at, and with the gas cap being active on your dash. All right, so we're on to our conclusions part. Overall, we got a pretty plain Jane work style truck here. It does have some of the monitor amenities needed, AC, cruise, power windows, and everything like that. We do have some bumps and bruises like to be expected on a work truck. We did have a few concerns. We have a coolant leak. We do have some noticeable wetness around the front of the trans, back of the engine. And then the gas cap light currently on. Truck has good power. Gets up to speed just fine, kicks down on the transmission just fine. Four-wheel drive does what it does. Tires are in decent shape. They are starting to show signs of dry rot, but beyond that, pretty good. Oh, excuse me. Paint's not in bad shape. We got some dings and dents. There's a few areas that could use some touch up just to avoid rusting out, but overall, for a work truck, the exterior is not bad. Normally these V6s just get beat to crap because guys don't care about them that much. They don't hold the value like that Hemi does, but this is pretty good. We do have some things to get addressed. I mean, obviously a coolant leak's no go. We don't want any kind of oil leak, especially with those having the oil filter / cooler in that top V. It could be something like that coming down, so just something to look at. And then interior wise, it's really standard interior. It does have some stains and stuff. You could probably get a guy to clean it pretty well, but beyond that, in conclusion, the truck does what it's supposed to. I definitely would address the concerns. I'm gonna bring the coolant situation up to them when I get back, because I don't think they know, and it only started happening while I was sitting here. I don't really smell anything while I was driving, but while I was sitting here I could smell it. So that's gonna be our conclusion on the 2017 Ram 1500.